Why did you decide to return to the character after all this time?
Well, he never really went away, to be honest. You know, my version finished in, I think, 2003, but then I was executive producer on the American version and the other remakes. You know, there wasn't a day went by when I didn't sort of somehow manage the estate of David Brent in the office. Where, you know, Mackenzie Crook's on the one show. Can they have a clip? Yes. You know, quiz machines use little. You know, and then it was the 10-year anniversary, and the BBC did a special box set, and they put the episodes onto iPlayer, and I did some intros, and I watched them again, bits of them, for the first time, and I laughed. I didn't remember some bits, you know, and I did a little thing for Comic Relief that year, and I got sort of hooked again. And it was just, you know, a 6-minute sketch, what David Brent was doing now, and he was managing a young rapper in Slough. He thought he was the Simon Cowell of the area, and then he worms his way into doing his own song, Equality Street, which was an ad-lib in episode 4, series 1 of The Office, where I just say we got a political reggae song called Equality Street, and I thought it'd be fun to write that. And so I had a few songs, because I wrote a few songs for the original one. I'd built up a little back catalogue, and I thought I'd do some gigs, and I still hadn't thought of doing the film yet, but then while doing the gigs, I had the band, which was Andy Burrows from Razorlight's own band. They were the musicians, and I thought, why would David Brent have this amazing band? How would he do it? He's paying for them. They're session musicians. He's paying to be famous now. And that was the seed of the idea. And I thought, of course he would be. He would be having the last shot of fame. Everyone wants to be famous now. Since The Office, we've had X Factor, Britain's Got Talent. We've had people get on The Apprentice saying, I would destroy anyone that stands in my way. There's a new hunger for fame. It's insatiable now, you know, and people do anything to be famous now. And there's no difference between fame and infamy these days. People do anything to get on the telly, good or bad, and they're rewarded for it, in their eyes, you know. And so it was about that. It was about Brent, this old fossil, entering a new game, a different type of fame, and he's sort of out of his league.
And you allude to that throughout the course of the film, you know, that he had that kind of infamy of being this kind of character in the documentary series.
Yeah, and he thinks this is sort of like Scorsese following the Rolling Stones round, but it's more of a where are they now type thing, and people don't really remember him, and they're, you know, he goes on the radio and they go, no, you were in this, you know, a docu-soap called The Office, and I don't remember you. And it's sort of really insulting, and he's a ghost. And he just can't compete in this new world of people that do anything to be famous, you know, because he's got a little bit more dignity in a way. He's almost like the underdog now. Your sympathies are more with him. I think people will identify with this Brent relative to the rest of the world more than they did with the old Brent, where it was the other people that were sort of normal and he was an idiot. But now he's sort of all right compared to, you know, the alpha males of this world.
I confess that when I heard that there were going to be songs in it, I thought that they were going to be terrible songs. I thought that musically they were going to be, you know, kind of bankrupt, but actually the songs are really good, and that speaks to your experience in the music industry as well, doesn't it?
I use all any skills I have as a songwriter to try and, you know, make them as good as possible, but they have to sort of be good, bad. You know, the joke isn't their comedy songs. They're not comedy songs like Monty Python songs. They're a fictional character's best attempt at being credible. He just gets things slightly wrong. You know, a song like Free Love Freeway, it's a cracking tune, but it's a song about crossing America, picking up chicks. And when you realise it's being sung by a 55-year-old tampon rep who's never done that, and, you know, it's the backstory that's funny. But the album as standalone, you know, is pretty good. And again, Slough, beautiful tune, but it's singing about Slough. No offence, nothing wrong with Slough, but that's not very rock and roll, you know. So it's more that he gets bogged down in admin. You know what I'm saying? It's the title track, Life on the Road. Again, could be an ISIS song, but he's singing about repping, you know, and he thinks that's really cool and glamorous, you know. And you know, he's writing about his life. So there's something that's sort of quite sweet and honest and naive still about Brent, even though he's 55 now. He's still a bit of a man-child. And that was always the theme, in fact, in all my stuff, you know, men as boys and women as adults. because it's sort of true, and it's sort of funny, and men do like to be the centre of attention, and he's the epitome of that. Except that now, as I say, there's a new breed. You see the people that go into Celebrity Big Brother. They've got no further way to. They'll do anything. They can't lose their dignity. They didn't have any. And Brent sort of wants to be respected as well. And they know they don't care about that. They go, no, I'm going to get a deal. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. I'm going to live my life like an open wound, and I'm going to make money. And I don't care.
Well, let's explore that a little bit more, because I really thought it was noticeable that in the original series he did seem to be more tolerated by his co-workers. He was the boss, obviously, but now he's at another company. He's clearly not the boss, and he's being quite badly bullied. And I thought that I was seeing a commentary on what has happened to perhaps British culture.
Well, it's true. People are more ruthless now. They're harsher. We've got potentially a future president saying, "Oh, I wanted to punch him in the face." When did that happen?
Or even potentially the assassination of his political rival.
Well, it's like, it's funny. A comedian says something terrible and doesn't mean it, and they get in trouble. A potential president says something terrible and means it, and they vote him in. But see, Trump's got more in common with David Brent than he has JFK. He's an entertainer. He's a reality star. He's a billionaire, but he wants to be famous.
So do you think he's a product of the culture that we're living through at the moment?
It's sort of it eats itself, and people are loving it. People want their president to be famous. It's very strange. When Obama was elected, people were saying, "Oh, he's elitist," because he had a degree. I want my president to be smarter than me. I think it's quite important. It's funny when Trump said, "I love the uneducated." Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, it's working.
And it entered the conversation during the referendum here as well, the discussion about, whether experts were part of the establishment, so should we be listening to them, because the establishment was clearly behind Remain.
Well, the thing is, you can't whinge about democracy. You can't. That's it. If Trump gets in, it's because more people wanted him in, or some people didn't vote, or whatever. But you can't whinge. You've got to go, let's do something about it. Let's try and change their minds. All you can do is vocalise and fight and vote. It's.
But isn't part of the problem that we are vocalising and fighting perhaps too much? That if you go on Twitter, the level of discourse it can be pretty brutal.
Well, that's a whole different level now. I don't think people have changed as much as everyone's thinks that they can say what they want now, and they can, and and in a way it's quite equalising. Everyone has their say on Twitter, but I think that even the offence culture, it's not that more people are offended. It's that 10 years ago you had to write a letter. Dear BBC, I can't be bothered. Whereas now you go, you're angry, do it, and then there's a mob mentality. Yeah, they want blood. But what goes around comes around. You see these sort of a social justice warrior on Twitter, and they have someone for that it's their particular ism, and they have a go at them and they bully them. But then what goes around comes around, because then they get an ism, someone else's ism wrong, and they go, and so I think people go, oh, maybe they weren't. Oh, yeah, I made a mistake. Maybe that person I bullied made a mistake. So I think generally people now understand that. Read it first. Just read it properly. It's such a knee-jerk reaction to be offended, and sometimes, particularly with jokes, people mistake the target of the joke with the subject of a joke, and they're not necessarily the same. It's such a knee-jerk reaction to a taboo subject. I get it with David Brent. People say, "Oh, that lyric in that song's a bit off. That's a bit dodgy." I go, "Well, yeah, it is. It's a fictional character. He's a bit dodgy. He says the wrong thing sometimes." We're not allowed to have bad people in fiction. I'm trying to reflect the world. There are bad people in this world, and so you have to have them in fiction. Otherwise, you've just whitewashed everything out so you don't offend anyone. Whatever you say, someone's going to be offended. So can't worry about that. Just say what you mean. Say it carefully and consider it, and you're fine. You know, that it's fine. If someone's offended, so what? Just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right.
Just one final question, if you don't mind. Any thoughts of bringing back some of the other characters, potentially revisiting maybe Andy Milburn?
Who, sorry? Andy Milburn from Extras.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, do you want to do that again? I your line. Sorry.
No, sorry, that was so fascinating about Twitter. I just wanted to ask this question to make sure. So do you want to revisit some of the other characters? I mean, like Extras or Derek, or is there a point where you go, I've done that, I'm going to put that on the shelf, I'm moving on to something else now?
Yeah, I mean, that usually wins, that I want to do something new. But, you know, I said I'd never bring back The Office, and I haven't. It's not The Office, but I thought it was time to revisit Brent just for a short while. So never say never. I do miss Derek. I do miss Extras. But it depends what I'm doing at the time. I mean, I've sort of pushed back stand-up for like 6 years now, and now I'm starting doing that. So I really want to do, after this has all died down, my next thing, I want to do another stand-up show, because I love it, and it's a third of what I do, probably, stand-up, and so I'm going to do that. So the next 2 years is sort of taken, but then I'll probably do either a new sitcom or a new movie, or, you know, Derek, I don't know.